Hi there, my name is K Moon, and I am a Twin Soul channel and Western astrologer. And this is a video about the full moon in Sagittarius of 2021, happening on May 26, 2021 at 7:13 a.m. in Miami, Florida. If you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States, please check a time zone converter for your local time. This full moon is special because it also includes a lunar eclipse, and this lunar eclipse occurs the same day, roughly the same time, within minutes. And you can see our full moon energy here with the moon at the 5th degree of Gemini there, sorry, 5th degree of Sagittarius there, sun opposite it at the 5th degree of Sagittarius. There's a few very interesting aspects about this particular full moon. So we'll get into those in a minute. But first things first, I want to go ahead and let all of you know that if you're not on my private list, it is a good idea to sign up. The reason being because I've started offering live mini readings recently again. So I was offering them before. I took a large break from them, but I just did another round of mini readings. And they are one question mini readings. I do them live. So this is something I tend to do when there tends to be like a long wait list. And I have availability and flexibility for it. So if you want to get on the private list, I will announce the next round of mini readings very soon here so that you can, just jump on the live broadcast and you can get a single question answered by me. I do not offer that on this channel. I have a live mini reading channel, and if you sign up for the private list, you'll be invited to join me for those. So I'd love to have you if that's something that you're interested in. It's a very quick way to get a single question answered by me in a relatively short period of time. The link to join the private list is just below this video. So if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and do that. And then the second thing I wanted to make sure I shared is that the eclipse calendar or the eclipse season calendar is pretty much almost fully booked. If you know that you have been wanting to get a reading with me in the now time, the soonest will be mid-June. And I would love to read for you. You're welcome to book a reading. This period of time for a reading is going to be especially ideal if you happen to be a Gemini or a Sagittarius, a Virgo or a Pisces, or you have a stellium in any of those signs, meaning multiple planetary placements in those signs, or Virgo, Pisces, Gemini, and Sagittarius happen to be your sun, moon, or rising, or if you happen to be experiencing significant changes at this time or things feel very up in the air at this time, doing a reading will help you understand how to leverage the second half of this eclipse cycle, as that's what we're moving into. The first half began last year, middle of last year, and now we've got the second half opening up as we move into the second part of this year. So you can click the link below, head over to kmoonastro.com, and you'll be able to book a reading, either an individual or relationship reading, if you'd like to better understand the things going on in the life of someone you love. Okay, so let's dive into the energy of this particular full moon. It's a really cool full moon, and the lunar eclipse happening at this full moon. Lunar eclipses tend to indicate completion. So do full moons. They are periods of time that are indicative of a cycle closing, things ending, or things transitioning out of the way it was and a new cycle beginning, but this cycle has to close first. So we have, for this particular lunation, we've got the sun trine Saturn and Chariklo. So Saturn and Chariklo are here, and there's a bit of a trining energy. Trines indicate harmonious flow of energy. Saturn is about discipline, boundary, structure, and time. And with Sun having a harmonious conversation here, this piece is really kind of cluing us into the urgency that we may have around moving forward with some of our goals for this year, moving forward with the things that we really want to experience this year, and putting pedal to the metal. This is about the discipline and the work ethic that it's going to take to facilitate the things we said we really wanted this year, especially now. We are having so much of the energy open back up after 2020's shutdowns. There's a lot more opening energy unfolding worldwide. And so Saturn is about, okay, what do I need to cut out in order to be able to make room for the things that I really want to accomplish and achieve now that there's more space, perhaps even a little less time to accomplish those things, since we're already at the halfway point of the year. We also have with Chariklo in the mix there, the thing that I really like about Chariklo in the mix is that Chariklo is like a guardian angel placement, so to speak. She intercedes on the behalf of the humans. She intercedes with the divine. And so, what Chariklo really provides is this energy of, if you work for it, that's Saturn, I can help you make it happen. And when the two of these come together, it's an indication that we do have divine support, as long as we aren't expecting the divine to do it for us, but we're willing to do it ourselves. So that's a really great energy at this period of time. But again, Saturn in the mix here is really talking about, what are you willing to cut out in service of what it is you want to live, what it is you want to thrive at this point in time. It's picking a lane, picking an outcome, picking a direction. Okay. Then we also have Sun making a harmonious aspect here to Make, who is the shaman's asteroid here. And because this kind of indicates a bit of like a grand trine energy, Sun, Make, and Chariklo. Make, the shaman's asteroid, is really about that long journey that we take to be able to create, to bring back wisdom for our tribe, and to bring back insight, divine insight, through all of the labors of our own journey. And so this again highlights that Saturnian theme. What are you willing to work for? That's the question that we're faced with at this particular lunation. I'm just going to write that down, because I never know what to title these until I hear it come out of my mouth. So once it's out, it's like, oh, yes, that is what this is about. Fascinatingly enough, there's a few other aspects here that really kind of are part of this, but they come to it from, they bring another energy. And so I just want to speak to those, because this aspect here with, the moon is also having a conversation with Chariklo and Saturn. This conversation is a harmonious one. It's a sextile. Sextiles also talk about work. We can get benefit out of the placement of the 60-degree angle, but only if we're willing to put forth the effort. The universe will support us, but we have to apply our own work ethic here. What's interesting about this to me is that this energy here with this sextile to Chariklo and the moon, and Chariklo being retrograde, Saturn's also retrograde. Moon tends to represent moms and motherhood. And with the lunar eclipse portending endings and closings, Chariklo is one of the mothers of the zodiac. If you are interested in mythology, I cover it in other videos historically, but so I'm going to kind of fast forward a little bit over it at this point. You can Google it if you want to know. But interestingly enough, Cheroklo's story is one of significant loss. Her child lost his eyesight. And so she did some intercession on her child's behalf to get back a type of sight, but it wasn't his eyesight. He got back the third sight or insight. He got the capacity to prophetically see. And with a lunar eclipse, talking to Cheroklo, it's really kind of highlighting that aspect of loss in Cheroklo's mythology. And there's also a square here to Jupiter. With the square to Jupiter and to the moon, there's a bit of an expansion energy, but Jupiter is preparing to go retrograde as well. So this just, it's a tricky energy, and you'll understand more when I get into what's going on with the other conversations Jupiter's having. But I want to specifically speak to what the moon is doing so I can give you that overall taste here. This energy is because also the way Saturn and Cheroklo are squaring Ceres, the third mother of the zodiac. Creation goddess is the fourth that I read. This whole thing is really kind of talking about, because there are very inharmonious aspects to the mothers of the zodiac, a lunar eclipse happening at the same time, which portends endings. Many people at this point in time may be finding out that, motherhood may not be in the cards for them. You may have hit menopause, or you may have uncovered that you're infertile at this point, and that you need fertility treatments in order to proceed with having children at this point in time. There may be a loss of a child occurring at this period of time, or a loss of a pregnancy that has happened. Or this may have already happened as we opened up the year, but this energy is particularly highlighted at this time as well. Especially because there's an inconjunct to Ceres from this full moon. There's just a lot of completions of cycles around motherhood and mothering, and a stepping into a new cycle. There may also be, in the less severe energy, and an energy here of the children have grown to an age where they just don't need you in the same way anymore. Some children preparing to leave the nest, leaving home, other children moving out of toddlerhood and tweenhood into teenhood, and just needing a lot less parental and mother's attention, ready to spread their wings and do their own thing. But there is an ending of one particular cycle or phase of motherhood for many. And for some, this will very quickly lean into the solar eclipse cycle that's about to begin, or continue forward, I should say, at the tail end of the year, and a new cycle of motherhood will open up once this one has closed. So just know that, as every door closes, another opens, but that this particular full moon and lunar eclipse is portending a closure and a completion. And it's specifically, with the way that I read, speaking about motherhood in particular. Now, that being said, the other energy here is that there are some of you who are going to complete a particular cycle of childlessness and move into giving birth with Jupiter square moon here at this lunar eclipse. So what's ending for you is maidenhood, and what's opening for you is motherhood. So we have, at this particular lunar eclipse, a very important passageway for the feminine energy on planet Earth. And I'm specifically talking about the cisgender feminine energy who can bear children, or who wants to bear children, or who has bore children in the past. There's a lot of childbearing energy here with this particular eclipse cycle. Okay. I've mentioned in the past that there is, I got the download last year that there would be a particular set of children coming in for twins. And I had a video about that for um, welcoming twin born children. So let me just make a note that I'll link that below. As there are many who will conceive, it's a particularly fertile time for divine counterparts this year. So those children are coming, they are being conceived, and so you may hear about a pregnancy if you happen to be a divine counterpart, or you may find out suddenly that you are pregnant in the months to come as well. All right. So the energies here are not the easiest, with Saturn retrograde speaking to this particular lunation. However, they do come with a lot of blessings as we close out one cycle and open another. Again, we are kind of closing out this cycle in the collective where we've been kind of shuttered and separated and distanced from one another, and moving into a cycle where we are now going to have the opportunity to reconnect. And so, closing of one chapter, opening of another. But the opening really comes with a need to work toward it. And let me just write that down. Great. Thank you for your patience there. Again, sometimes I never know what I'm going to title these things until I've heard it come out of my mouth. But yeah, there's that opportunity here to have a bit of a new beginning, but that new beginning really comes with a bit of a cost, a bit of something that we have to let go of. This is only further highlighted by the position of Chiron here and its harmonious aspect to this full moon. Chiron at 11 degrees Aries, full moon at 5 degrees Sagittarius. They're not particularly tight, but they're close enough to still be considered a trining energy. And what this is giving us the opportunity to do is, in the closing and whatever we're being asked to let go of, do a bit of self-healing, do a bit of self-care, self-love, really supporting ourselves to understand that, sometimes things need to complete, but that's not necessarily a reflection on us having done something wrong or a failure on our behalf. Sometimes it's just time to move on to the next chapter in your life. And so this Chiron energy is really assisting us with letting go of some of the storyline of our not enoughness as we are letting go of a previous chapter or series of events in our lives, and move into our strength with the solar eclipse cycle that begins or continues in June and is highlighted through the end of the year. I want to go ahead and take a quick look. I just want to show you the eclipse cycle. So I've pulled this up and I'm going to put it over here on the left side of your screen. Over here, this table of eclipse dates was brought to us by Susan Miller. She is one of my favorite astrologers, and I will link the table of eclipses below this video. So if you'd like to find this, you can look at it for yourself. The Sag-Gemini eclipse cycle really began last year with a series of lunar eclipses that opened on June 5th, continued into November. We had a lunar eclipse, a closing eclipse on November 30th. And then we have this lunar eclipse, the final closing eclipse of the cycle. This cycle began with a series of endings, but it very quickly, and we are now in the cycle of new beginnings. So we had a solar eclipse, which portend new beginnings, on December 14th. The next one occurs on June 10th of this year. And then the final one is December 3rd of this year. So you'll see they overlap. Eclipses never work alone. They always work in a cycle or in a series. moving us from one place to another. In this particular instance, they've been moving us from something that's been closing in your chart on the Sag-Gemini axis to something that's opening on that Sag-Gemini axis. Now, again, if you are a Virgo, Pisces, Sagittarius, or Gemini, you're going to be feeling this eclipse cycle the most, especially if you have Sun, Moon, Rising, or a stellium, meaning a trio or more of planets in one of those signs. So note that for yourself, pay attention to what houses are indicated, especially if you're one of my star schoolers, you want to reflect back to that handout that talks about the houses inside of your workbook, because it'll show you where this new beginning and ending energy has been unfolding for you. I also have a video about the Sag-Gemini eclipse cycle that's linked below every video, since that's the eclipse cycle we're in. So if you're curious about the way this eclipse cycle is impacting you, you can go ahead and take a deeper dive there. But I just wanted to give you a little quick view, especially if you have any personal planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, or Mars sitting at any of the eclipse degrees, you're especially going to feel this particular eclipse cycle as we move into it. All right. So if you're hearing anything that's already resonated for you, I'm going to invite you to hit subscribe if you're new. And if you've been here with me hanging out, thank you. It's awesome to have you here. The June calendar is open. So if you'd like to book a private reading with me to explore these themes and understand what's happening in your life and some of the changes, because this is a mutable eclipse cycle, things can feel particularly up in the air or particularly back and forth in your life. Hit me up at kmoonastro.com and we'll set it up. At the moment, I'm going to get into, in a moment, I'm going to get into some of the more subtler energies that are also playing out at this time, because we do have a Mercury retrograde upon us that's opening up in just a short period of time, and some really challenging energies from Pluto and Mars that I'm going to get into. So I want to make sure you're prepared for all of that. But first, I'm going to show a quick YouTube video. If you're able to watch it, that would be fantastic. It definitely helps me provide this content that I've been providing on the channel. And I'm going to show it now. Thanks so much. Okay, welcome back. Thank you again. Let's dive into what's going on here, because this is providing a really tricky energy for relationships on the whole at this period of time. Which, it's no wonder, people have been really kind of cooped up. And what's happened during this particular cycle in the world of dating and relating and mating is that we've had this opportunity to have all of our relationships under a microscope over the last year. And what we've been able to see with greater clarity is what's working and what's not working, and where our heart is and where our heart isn't, and what things we would need to do in order to get our relationships to survive and thrive. We've also had the opportunity to really see which relationships have really run their course. The separative energies of 2020, having everyone really kind of in their own box, unable to connect, have really done a number on exposing the crack points, where the weak points in our dating and relating and mating. And so with this full moon in Sagittarius, that's about closing and completions. Many things can be going on as we move, especially as we're just on the cusp of really diving into the new beginning cycle. I definitely know a lot of people who are getting married at this time, who are, closing out their cycle of singledom and moving into a cycle of unification and union. There are other people who have had the illumination, like, wow, the relationship I was in really isn't tenable anymore, and it's time for me to complete it. I've done the best that I could here, and it's no longer healthy for me to present a role model to my children of two unhappy parents or two parents who are at each other's throats, or, who can be kind but who can't be loving, or who are unavailable because they are carrying on affairs elsewhere. That kind of stuff is going to start to come to clarity around what needs to close so that you can, as we talked about in the earlier part of this video, close one chapter, open another, work and be willing to work toward the kind of life that you really want to create. Now, what I've highlighted here is a particular kind of T-square. Not all astrologers will talk about it because not all astrologers will work with the planet Juno. Juno represents our partnerships. Juno in the zodiac is the partner that we are able to commit to and settle down to, whereas Venus is what we are always going to be attracted to. These two things, as you can see by this particular chart, are at odds. Venus is at 21 degrees Gemini. Juno is at the 18th degree of Sagittarius, and Juno's moving retrograde. Now, what's interesting about this is when Juno moves retrograde, she doesn't provide her commitment best. Instead, she provides an energy of kind of the woman solo, committed to herself, committed to her own divinity. And what's also interesting is that we have Mercury having a conversation with both of them, but Mercury is aligned with and having a conversation with Venus. Mercury brings illumination, communication, and clarity, except for when Mercury is having a conversation with Neptune, which Mercury is at this point in time. And because Mercury is in shadow, preparing to move retrograde, Neptune being ruler of fog and confusion, illusion, deception, Mercury square. Oh boy, there's a few things that can really come up with this particular full moon in Sagittarius and lunar eclipse. Number one, like I said, some people are really going to be faced with a choice between what they know they can commit to and what they're really drawn and attracted to, and needing to get clear. The clarity will come at the end of the Mercury retrograde cycle, not the beginning, about where their heart is and what it is they need to do in order to align their life with it. Number two, this could also be a representation of choice between two different people in your life. If you happen to be kind of committed in one place, but in love in another place, this is really going to really highlight for you the necessity of making a choice, because they're at odds with one another. And the pull of the 180 degrees in two different directions is going to really be highlighted. Lastly, this is a period of time where there could be communication about a declaration of love or a declaration of attraction, but the commitment piece isn't really there. The commitment piece is, 180 degrees in a different direction at the moment. And that commitment piece will come, but it's just down the road. And so if there's those kinds of conversations, there's a little bit of an energy here of kind of like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, okay, you like me, and are you going to do anything with that? Yes or no? Because I maybe want to do some other things if you're not. That kind of energy can really be here. And the impatience about it is only further highlighted by Mars's opposition here to Pluto. This is a very impatient energy, especially because Mars is in the sign of its detriment, the sign of its fall. And because Mars is compromised in the sign of Cancer, Mars doesn't really give its best. At its best, Mars is passion, forward movement, momentum. Mars is all about, at its best, ambition and the motor we need to get us to move toward our ambitions. But opposite Pluto, we're not really getting all of that. We're getting some of Mars's shadow energy, especially in the sign of Cancer. And in its shadow, Mars can be aggressive as opposed to assertive. In the shadow, Mars can also be pushy. and just downright kind of warlike, which is what in traditional astrology we associate Mars with, the god of war. But Mars isn't just that. The way that I read, there's a more neutral energy that has a lot to do with just having a motor to move forward. But opposite Pluto, yeah, we're getting the shadow energy here, especially with Pluto in retrograde. There's all kind of power struggle and tension energy and force the hand energy. And this is only further highlighted because of the conversation Juno has been having here with Eris in the last little bit. Hopefully, you're the kind of viewer on my channel who watches both the Twin Soul videos and these Lightworker videos so that you have a full, well rounded picture of what's going on astrologically as opposed to something more narrow, because in tandem, they show you the work that you need to do to facilitate love grounding in the material world. Those are in the Lightworker videos. And then in the Twin Soul videos, what you get is more of an overview of the collective energies between twin souls. If you've only been watching one, not the other, you're really missing the complete picture. And I break them up because otherwise these videos would just be way too long. So, because we've got this conversation between Eris and the divine feminine, Juno, there's this energy here in the partnership realm where people's resentments, especially because we've had this year of really being cooped up, can really start to show at this time. And you can get a lot of retaliatory, belittling, passive aggressive. That's the word I'm looking for. Energy going on right now. Lots of passive aggressive energy. So, not the best time for love, but certainly passions are running high with the Pluto and Mars opposition. Mars talking to Neptune in a trine. There's a lot of passionate energy about the place, but certainly not a lot of grounding at this time in relationship at all. And because of the closing energy, you may just find that life is the chessboard of life is moving you or people that you love into positions that's facilitating the completion of a cycle in connection, whether you are ready or not. It's just kind of, oh, I gotta move. I'm being relocated by my job to a different country, or, to a different, locale, or to a different office. Sagittarius and Gemini are both travel signs, or, maybe, things are just shifting in such a way in your partnership where one partner is ready to call it quits, whether you didn't, you weren't ready for that or not. The relationship is now coming to its natural close and moving into its next iteration. Maybe you'll move from being marriage partners to co-parenting partners, or maybe you'll move from being just lovers into being in a full-blown relationship. Something is definitely closing and something else is definitely opening. And it's certainly highly indicated in our relationships at this point in time. Because of because of the positioning here of Venus and Mercury squaring Neptune, and all these positions, there can be a lot of mixed messages about this throughout the 3-week Mercury retrograde cycle. So I just want to make sure that I give you the precise dates for the Mercury retrograde cycle so that you have them. This particular Mercury retrograde cycle sits in the sign of Gemini. Gemini is about communication, so expect communication to be weird. Expect it to be a little off, people to come off a little half-cocked, a bit unclear, half the message, not all of it. Certainly not a lot of the information, only some of it. You may feel like there's some missing information, some things that are obscured, and that's probably because they're just not decided or grounded yet. This cycle goes from May 29th through June 22nd. So it's basically all of June. And we're already in the pre-shadow. The post-shadow will be the end of June, beginning of July. Just expect June to be a little hazy and murky in the world of communication, especially in the arena of relationship and partnership. Things just look a little like unclear. And so this is a good time rather than trying to figure out, like, we need to figure this out and we need to have a conversation right now and you need to give me the information because I need to know where I stand. Instead of trying to manifest that pushy energy of Mars Pluto's opposition here, this is a really good time to go inward because Sagittarius and Gemini are also about education. This is a phenomenal time to take a class on your own communication style, maybe on your attachment style. I talked to you guys a lot about the work of Thais Gibson from the Personal Development School. She is a phenomenal teacher on helping people understand how to get relationships that to work, and how to understand yourself and your partner when you keep falling into the same ruts over and over again and things aren't working. Thais can really help you illuminate a lot of that. And I strongly encourage you to leverage this period of time to get into her classes. It's one of the best ways to utilize this energy. Work it out with yourself during June. And then in July, plan to work it out with someone else. Don't try to work it. You try to work it out with somebody else now, I guarantee there's going to be a lot of chaos, unclarity, miscommunication, misunderstanding, and lots of confusion. Okay. Because there's just not enough clear info in order to be able to facilitate clear decisions. You may get to a decision now only for another shoe to drop mid-June and be in a completely different place by the beginning of July. So go slow. Give yourself plenty of space to, like I said, work it out with yourself first and then try to work it out with somebody else. All right. And then the last energy that's in effect all year that I really want to highlight for you guys is this Saturn square Uranus. And so this is an energy because this energy, it's moving so slow. These are both outer planets. They have big impact. They are going to be facilitating. They are, how can I put this? If you're into music, these two energies are a bit like the bass line that keeps the rhythm of the song of 2021 going. If you are someone who understands things like a play, or like if you're an actor, this is basically the set in which all of the action is taking place. And as you know, the set lets you know, okay, what's the theme? What time period are we in? Where is this ultimately going? What are the constructs that we're working with here? The set is what really lets you know, oh, we're dealing with this theme. We're dealing with themes in this arena. And so I'm going to get into the Saturn Uranus square momentarily. I'm going to drop in one more video. We'll see if YouTube wants to show it right here. Great. Thank you so much for watching that. Okay, so the theme here with Saturn square Uranus, and I've spoken about this in other videos, is change. Big change, massive change in the areas of your life, meaning the houses that Saturn and Uranus sit in. Uranus is all about divine insight and bringing, because Uranus represents the divine consort of Gaia. And so this is a bit of channeling of the divine, calling down that lightning energy, that electrifying energy into the temporal realms in Taurus. Taurus represents nurture, creativity, it represents our physical bodies. And so there's an electrifying energy here with Uranus and Taurus. But Uranus squaring Saturn, Uranus in shadow. Well, let me put this a different way. Chaos isn't necessarily a bad thing. However, Saturn isn't necessarily comfortable with chaos. Saturn likes order, and order isn't a bad thing. Boundaries aren't a bad thing. But when you put order and boundaries in a conversation with chaos and revolution, what you get is something highly combustible. And so you want to pay attention in your chart to the areas of your life where Saturn and Uranus are sitting, which houses they're sitting in, because those are the two houses that are going to be most combustible at this time. And so these two, this is where you're being asked to make a major change in your life in order to facilitate a breakthrough on the other side of this transit. If you utilize this transit well, you're going to have the ability to up-level your life in those two houses and maybe accomplish certain dreams that have been unattainable before now, where that you might have felt restrictions before now or an inability to access. This is an opportunity to apply the divine wisdom of the divine consort Uranus and the discipline and work ethic of Saturn to create a new beginning in those areas of life. So, if you're curious about the way this looks, a quick 30-minute reading will help you understand how to leverage this. And the reading calendar for June remains open until it's not, and it's almost full. So, definitely book now. But I also wanted to say, if you want to do that mini reading with me, you can sign up for the private list. I notify the private listers. I do it on a different channel, and I'm going to do some more in the coming week. So if you want to get a mini reading where we can look over this and really comb through, okay, how are you supposed to be utilizing this energy to get that new beginning in your life and to get that breakthrough? We can talk about it. The thing here about this that you need to remember is that these two are fixed signs, and Taurus really likes to keep things the same, and that's where Uranus is sitting going, no, 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 not the same, we got to do a new thing. And Aquarius appreciates change that's for the greater good. But Saturn really, Saturn's like, change. What will we want to change? We only want to change things if it's really not in alignment with our higher self. And so when these two things are coming together, you're really being asked to dig deep into who are you in that house that Aquarius governs? What is your highest self in that house? And how can you leverage the energy of change to facilitate a breakthrough there? Okay. Uranus, being the outer planet, is the one that's influencing the innermost planet, and that would be Saturn. And with, this Cheroklo energy in the mix that has been for some time, there's really divine blessing on you being able to make that change. But if you're not making it, the unfortunate thing with this energy is that you can feel a little bit dragged by the energy, to use the slang the kids speak. This is really Saturn and Uranus dragging you a bit in these two areas. And rather than getting dragged, my advocacy for you is to find the way to utilize these constructively, and lean into the change, direct it, call your shot, instead of the universe kind of dragging you towards it, kicking and screaming. All right. So thank you so much for taking a look at this video. I really look forward to reading for you, whether that be a mini read if you're jumping on the private list, or if you would like to do a fuller read and really look at this in depth, you can certainly do that by going over to K Moon Astro and signing up. Let me just make sure I covered all the things. I'm pretty sure that I did. Yes, I did. If you're new, welcome. Please subscribe if you heard something that resonated for you. And I will see you at the new moon for another video. Take great care and bye for now.